Hello there! I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to my review of the finale of Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi. Seriously, everybody, I hope you're all doing well. And again, sorry you're not seeing my beautiful, well, not beautiful at the moment, my currently messed up face. Hopefully by next week I will be back on camera, but for now I'm still all puffed up. So we're going to be doing this one audio only. But let's talk about this finale, because whew, this was, to me, a fantastic finale to everything that we've been building up so far, the rest of this limited series, because I think it really paid off everything that we had come to expect. There was pretty much no dead air in most of this, and I thought it just went through and just clicked and hit all the beats that I wanted it to. I initially had some hesitance around some stories, specifically around Riva's storyline. I was initially, for the first third, maybe 2/3 of her arc in this, I was sort of like, why are we doing this? What's going on here? I'm kind of worried about how it could mess up with like small things related to A New Hope and stuff like that surrounding Luke. And I do have some of those concerns even on the end of this finale that I'll talk about in just a second. But on the whole, the way it ended managed to completely do a 180 for me and make it sell it to me, because then I'm like, okay, I see why they went this route. I understand the themes that they were trying to hit with the character. And also the fact that they're going to probably have this character of Riva show up in future Star Wars projects, which has me very excited for that, because I do think where they left her off leaves her in an interesting spot, and I'm curious to see what they're going to take her. So while it's a bit rocky here and there, and still have a few concerns, overall I really enjoyed it. But obviously the biggest part is the Darth Vader and Obi-Wan fight that we knew had to come, and I think for the most part it did not disappoint. So let's get all into it. Let's go through this beat by beat, because I certainly have a lot to talk about. Like I said, we have Riva on Tatooine at the beginning. I had my concerns with this whole storyline, mostly because I was wondering, why is she here? Why is she coming after Luke? I felt like it was just initially just something for her to do, when I really felt like her arc had completed last episode. Like, oh, she failed to get her revenge, and it led her to what should have been her death. And honestly, Darth Vader and the Grand Inquisitor should have killed her. They, always double tap. But obviously, that wasn't the case. One thing that I was confused about here, though, was the timeline of this, because Riva was pretty down and out at the end of last episode, like pretty down and out, like close to death. And then all of a sudden she's on Tatooine, and we're cross-cutting that with Obi-Wan on the run, like seemingly only a few minutes after last episode, but her having gotten all the way to Tatooine, it seems like it would have been at least a few weeks for her to heal. So I'm going to call kind of BS on that. I appreciate it for where it was going, but unfortunately just that choice of timeline, woof, that was really trying to rush it on that front. So that's definitely a ding in that department. But we'll talk about the positives of her storyline as we go through this. I do like, back with Obi-Wan, that we do get Leia trying to distract everyone with her droid. I thought that was really cute, kind of fit Leia growing into this politician role, but in a way that befits a small kid, not like an adult. She's not like leading the charge or giving speeches. She's doing small things about making people smile, but it still sort of fits her personality, and I liked that. Back a few beats after that, we get a kind of finale to Haja, where he sort of talks to Obi-Wan, and he says that Obi-Wan says that Haja's word is good enough for him. I thought that was a sweet ending for his character. Haja didn't really get much to do past his last, or his first appearance, I should say. He really didn't get much to do last episode either. He's just sort of here, but it was a sweet little moment that I thought paid off a little bit of that well, even though he hasn't had much to do after his initial appearance. I also really love that Obi-Wan gave Leia his blaster holder. Like, that was such a great move, and I really think that that was a nice little piece of connective tissue with her costuming to A New Hope in a way that managed to deepen her costuming from A New Hope. Like, now we have this connection for the show. It kind of adds legitimacy to the show within the movies that we've seen before, and kind of gives us a little resonance with her classic costume, but in a way that was much less distracting than, let's say, Solo. Because in Solo, when he had the moment where he got his blaster from that movie, it's like, well, I didn't really care about how he got his blaster, and how he got his blaster didn't really have an emotional resonance to it, whereas here, it's about the emotion between these two characters and how much they've come to build and care for each other. So now that we built that up and we have this small piece that's part of her iconic costume, I thought that worked so much better, and I really like that, as opposed to, again, saying Solo, how Solo did it. We also get a little call out with Roken here. I'm curious if we're going to see Roken come back up as like a leader of the rebellion in some future show that Disney probably has planned, considering they have a billion Star Wars shows planned at the moment. So I'm curious if we'll see him pop back up here. But then I like when Obi-Wan sort of goes down to the planet and sort of distracts Vader, the Grand Inquisitor, sort of like, sir, we should probably go after all these people that are escaping. You know, that seems to be a much more important thing. You know, Darth Vader's like, nope, we're going after Obi-Wan. Grand Inquisitor's like, all right, shut my mouth, we'll do it. Go, everyone, go. And then we finally get our big climactic battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in a way reminiscent of Mustafar, in the sense that they're on this desolate planet that really has nothing else but to be a climactic battle for them. And I honestly think that this did not disappoint. Obi-Wan getting Leia's droid was very, very sweet. I thought that, again, showed their connection. But then Vader just showing up, and Obi-Wan says, I will do what I must. After Vader says, have you come to destroy me? Ooh, shivers down my spine. I thought the choreography of the battle, a little bit quick cutty in terms of like just a lot of quick cuts and things like that. Obviously this is a movie, so they're not going to have the budget to do a big grand choreography thing, but I thought what they showed was a good middle ground between the prequels, like high-flying action, and the original trilogy's more mundane sword fights. I thought that this was a good sort of brutal middle ground where you could feel the hits of their sabers, but they weren't jumping and dancing everywhere. I thought that was pretty good. I loved Vader's line of like, I've gotten strong, but your weakness still remains, and then him just burying Obi-Wan with rocks was just brutal. Not as brutal as his, I think, what was it, episode 2 or 3 appearance, but still pretty strong. And I just really thought that was really cool. But I liked that Leia gave Obi-Wan that connection to the Force again and sort of drew him out to get his power back. And then he just sort of getting that ability upgrade. Someone upgraded their skill tree, because then he started throwing rocks at Vader. That was also pretty cool. Again, not the best CGI in the world, but pretty bomb. And then the moment where he cuts Vader's mask, and we see Hayden Christensen under that mask. Because you know that this is probably going to be their last ever filmed scene together, at least that we're going to see canonically between these two actors, not just necessarily these characters, because they show up again in A New Hope together. But this is the last one between these two actors. And you really, really felt the pain of that when Obi-Wan says, I'm sorry for all of it. Ian McGregor just punching me in the gut with that moment. And when Vader says, I am not your failure, Obi-Wan, I killed Anakin Skywalker, it's really cementing that he is Darth Vader and he is gone, at least until Return of the Jedi. You really felt that loss that Obi-Wan felt. And obviously that calls back to the line from A New Hope where Obi-Wan kind of sort of lied to Luke, saying that his father was killed by Darth Vader. And this line sort of metaphorically sort of evokes that. And so I thought that was a good little rhyming echo, as it were, in the words of George Lucas. And the one thing that I have a problem with, Obi-Wan, kill him. I know that it's not the Jedi way, but come on, you're doing it wrong. I would have much preferred, because we see him in a minute later that Obi-Wan sort of gets a vision of Luke and realizes that he needs to go to Tatooine. I would have preferred it that he's just like, oh crap, I need to go get to Luke right now, and he doesn't have time to kill Darth Vader. And the fact that he leaves Darth Vader alive, honestly irresponsible of him, in my opinion. Again, I get it's not the Jedi way, and I get that we have canon to make sure that we don't mess up, like you killed Darth Vader, people would be like, what? No. But it just felt a little bit forced, because I would have believed that he would have killed Vader. So I wish they'd come up with a better way for that to work out. And I think there was one right on hand that they had available, but they didn't take it. Let's jump back over, though, to Riva on Tatooine. I really liked seeing Owen and Beru sort of standing their ground and being like, hey, we're going to try and save Luke. We can do this thing. And them just kicking Riva's butt was really great. And they were basically saying, they'll take Luke over our charred corpses. Oops. Sorry. Too soon? Was that a little bit too soon? Anyways, so yeah, I've already sort of spoken about my issues with Riva and the timeline. I thought it was a bit rushed to get her there, and I was sort of confused by what's going on. And I was a little bit worried about Luke seeing her, because Luke in A New Hope always wanted to see these cool things out in the world. And I wondered if you had this kid see a lightsaber and a literal supposed kind of Sith chasing after him as a little kid, that it would have negated some of that wanderlust that he feels in A New Hope, because he would have already seen something pretty badass that most people wouldn't have gotten to see as a kid. Not that it would have made him want to stay necessarily, but I feel like the innocence of Luke in A New Hope would have been somewhat muddied, and it gets very, very close to that in here, and for some it may not work, for others it may not. I think it skirts it just enough because he escapes. He doesn't really see her lightsaber when she comes in, and when he gets to the rocks and is running away from her, he doesn't really see her lightsaber at all, and he falls and he's knocked out before he ever sees her, like full on front face to face. So I can buy it, but I can understand completely if it rubs people, other people the wrong way. Totally would understand that. But I do like that when Riva goes to try and kill Luke, she has the flashbacks of her as a youngling having the same sort of trauma. And again, sort of this idea that trauma often begets trauma, is sort of this perpetual cycle, and she chooses to break it, bringing Luke back. I think she's given a little bit too much of a pat on the back by Obi-Wan's like, oh yeah, you did great, you honored them. And I'm like, she still tried to kill Luke and probably at least traumatized him a little bit. Like, she's gonna have a little bit of things to talk about with a therapist there. But I still like the concept that they were going for, and I did like his moment of like, you have chosen not to become him, being Darth Vader. Who you become now, that is up to you. And I'm curious to see if we are going to see Riva show up in some other future projects. So I'd be very interested because Moses is great, and I really loved her performance. And while I have some issues with some of the ways the stories took in terms of just little quibbles and quabbles, overall her arc was great in this show. So I did like that ending. I'm curious to see where she's going to show up. We also go back to Mustafar, where we get a final scene between the Emperor and Darth Vader. Love to see Ian McDiarmid here. Better ending for him if we never see him again here than in Rise of Skywalker, because so it was nice to see him here. I wonder if he was saying to Vader, now I'm going to go deal with my clones that I'm going to deal with. Have I told you about my Snoke plan yet, Vader? Let me tell you about Snoke. So that would have been kind of funny. But moving on, we get a last little scene on Alderaan, Leia getting to be sort of ready to become a politician. I love her bun hair, her holster, great. All that stuff was wonderful. The final few scenes with Bail Organa were great, and Bail saying, hey, we'll change it together. I love that he gets some scenes with her before he gets blown up in a New Hope, presumably blown up in A New Hope. And then I love the moment between Obi-Wan and Leia, where he tells her about Padme and Anakin and sort of alludes to Anakin being a father figure for her and the strengths that he had. I thought that was very sweet and a nice sort of emotional end to him sort of mourning Anakin in this moment and sort of truly accepting that Vader is all that is left. I thought that worked well. And then we go back to Tatooine, where Obi-Wan has chosen to no longer live in a cave with a box of scraps. And then he goes and visits Owen, and it's like, he needs to be a boy. It's a nice little ending there. I do think that this breaks canon a little bit because Obi-Wan goes over to meet Luke and says the meme. He says, hello there. He says the thing. Had to do it. They couldn't resist it. I loved it. But I have complicated feelings about him meeting Luke now because, again, I'm not necessarily a canon hound. You know me. I've always argued about things like if they want to change the story a little bit to make it fit, that's okay. But there's some parts of it where it's like when you do change it, the emotional resonance of something, like him having never met Obi-Wan until A New Hope, I think that works better. And so I think that this sort of ruins that a tiny bit for me. Again, I don't mind canon changing to make a story better. I do mind canon changing if it makes it a little bit middling or worse. And for this, I don't like it as much, even though I get what they were going for in this story. Your mileage may vary. I'm open to being argued against this, so if you have differing opinions, let me know down in the comments. But then we get the final scene of the episode, and that is Obi-Wan seeing the Force ghost of Qui-Gon. We knew it had to come. They teed us up with a Chekhov's Qui-Gon in the episode 1, so we obviously were going to get him at some point. I would have been pissed off if they didn't. And this was a great amount. I mean, he certainly doesn't look the same that he did in Phantom Menace, but I guess that's just, Force ghosts age too. So what are you gonna do? But not jokes aside about obviously him aging, it was nice to see him, and I'm curious to see if they're going to actually build up more story with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon here. Maybe that's just in sort of evocation of like, oh, he goes on and gets his hut in A New Hope, that they're gonna go off together to build that hut and live Force Ghost and Obi-Wan. Maybe it'll be a comedy on ABC soon enough. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon living in their house, nice little sitcom. But I'm curious if they actually have plans with that, whether it be comic books or showing up in another TV show or something like that. I'd be down for it. I think it'd be cool. But if not, that's a fine ending to this show and to Obi-Wan's story, connecting between this and A New Hope. If this is all we get with Obi-Wan, I am certainly pretty satisfied with it. So overall, I thought that this was a great finale. couple issues like leaving Vader alive and sort of meeting Luke and Obi-Wan. But on the whole, though, this was a really solid finale, which paid off a lot of great moments, continued some great arcs, and has me curious to see if they have some plans for this era of Star Wars going forward, not just the Mandalorian era. So I'm curious about all of that, but I'd love to hear all of your thoughts below. What did you think of this episode? What did you think of Obi-Wan overall? What do you think of my audio waveforms? Were they sexy enough for you? Beyond all of that, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll also have my Miss Marvel review up in just a little bit. Beyond all of that, I hope that you all, my friends, live long and prosper.